Let us get officially underway. My name is Dwight Mahalich, Chair of ICMCI. I haven't been able to look through all the screens yet. I know there's a couple of you that I've not had the good fortune of meeting personally as yet. Welcome to this annual meeting of delegates. This is the meeting of delegates where we come together once a year to decide the business of ICMCI and to ensure that we have a program of action that's consistent with where we're going as a profession and our delegates who are representative of the institutes. It is a bit melancholy for me because I've always enjoyed these meetings where we can get together, we can share a meal, perhaps have a beer or a glass of wine together, share some laughs on the off time when we're not actually discussing the business and moving forward and having our discussion, our debates, sometimes perhaps arguments, but always for the benefit of the profession overall. So it's sad for me that we can't have those more informal discussions and be able to meet with each other in that way. But at the same time, I'm just delighted that we can do this meeting virtually. And the silver lining is that because it is a virtual meeting, we are able to have a greater participation than we normally do in our face-to-face meeting. My opening comment, and the thing I really want to underline in my opening remarks, is that we are primarily a volunteer-driven organization. Of course, we have a staff organization that supports us in our work. Rima and her team work diligently and hard. In fact, in many ways, they're part volunteer because I know for sure that they work more hours than we pay them for. For them to support us and coordinate us, Huseima and Rima have both been working very, very hard to prepare us for this day where we can perform our governance duties of the organization. And at the committee level, the work is 100% volunteer. So our operational arm in terms of how we do our work is by volunteers. And it actually humbles me to know, as I was going through the annual report, which all of you should have a copy in hand or on your screen, just documents the great thinking, the energy, the wisdom that they are providing to our profession around the world. And then when I think that this is multiplied 50 or 100 times when you think about all of the volunteers at the institute level that are also working towards the same end, certainly nationally or regionally, but all supporting the profession of management consulting, it's really, really great. I'd like to talk a little bit now about our times. These are extraordinary times for us. The global pandemic of COVID-19 has created a situation that has disrupted us in ways that we could never have imagined at our last annual meeting. Even in January, February of this year, although we knew something was happening, we had no idea of the impact. And this health crisis comes to us on top of a number of disturbing trends that were already in place. The human development that has impacted our natural environment has resulted in increasing disturbances to our environment. Areas that used to be in drought are now flooding. Areas that were flooding are now in drought. Temperate climates are getting hotter or colder. It's all the weather patterns are changing. And always when I turn on the news, I'm hearing about a typhoon or a hurricane or wildfires that are impacting us directly. So that is one disturbing part of what's happening in our world that is creating havoc. But the health crisis and these types of natural situations are also exacerbating other disruptive trends. In 2019 through now, there has been no question that our economies globally have been coming under pressure. And the largest world economies are backing away from the collaboration that was so prevalent over the last decade. And in fact, the world's two largest economies seem to be at loggerheads and are increasingly bitter in terms of their relationships with each other. Technological change is accelerating. There are new and better ways of doing things that are absolutely disrupting industries and forcing change upon many of our client organizations in terms of what they do and how they do it. And this has led to unprecedented changes in the way people work at home, working remotely, has come into place in the last few months in a time when it might have taken years for such changes to take place. So so these increasing numbers of disrupted workers, though, are also creating dissatisfaction with the status quo, because that uncertainty is something that is very difficult for people to live with. And in our own industry, we're facing disruption. The elements that I talked about earlier are creating very difficult situations for our client organizations, which forces us as management consultants to react quickly and differently than we ever have before. It also leads to situations where new entrants into our profession, management consulting and consulting more generally, where those new entrants do not value membership in institutes, and they do not value certification in the same way those of us who are on this call may value that. So this is creating, I know, huge pressure on our institutes in terms of how you provide support to members and how you create value propositions that will encourage those new entrants into consulting to actually join our institutes, join the profession in a formal way so that we can all grow together. So these are indeed scary times in many ways, but that's kind of the dark part of the cloud. To me, the bright part of the cloud, the optimism, is that I have absolute faith in people to make the right decision. I have seen over and over again the resilience of human beings to endure hardship and to make positive change that grows out of that hardship. One life-changing experience for me was in 2004 when I was the chair of UNICEF Canada. We had our annual meeting. Our global annual meeting was in Japan. And just weeks before that annual meeting, the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake struck, which resulted in a typhoon that wiped out large parts of the basin around the Indian Ocean, and Sri Lanka was particularly hard hit. Since UNICEF had many programs there, those of us chairs that were traveling already anyway did visit that site. And I was just astounded to visit towns in the southern part of Sri Lanka where there had been, you know, complete town with hospitals and schools and office buildings and houses, and there was literally nothing left, literally nothing. And yet the people living in tents who had lost loved ones, who had lost their entire livelihoods, were resilient. They were thinking about, what is the next step? How are we going to do this? We went to one refugee camp, where I shouldn't really call it displaced person camp, which was all tents that had been put up by the Red Cross, and there was nobody there. It was during the middle of the day. I said, where is everybody? And well, they were off working, they were off making plans, they were off starting to build their lives again. And people can come back from very large hardships to do this. So I know that people will be able to take this in stride. And we as management consultants have exactly a role in helping our client organizations understand how it is that they react and how they can rebound stronger than ever in terms of their contributions to society and economies more generally. So there is not going to be any more steady as she goes. So we need, as management consultants, to understand how to bring our diagnostic capabilities that we've developed over the years and over the century of this profession to really help our client organizations to do better work. So now is the time for us to make great strides. I'm just filled with optimism about what we're able to do. As consultants, when we work with client organizations and introduce a major change program, one of the first things we need to do is what we call unfreeze the organization. We have to create that state of dissonance where the workforce is ready, willing, and in fact looking forward to the change because they know that the future can be better. Well, the whole world now is in fact in this state of dissonance, and we as management consultants can take a very strong leadership role in helping the world to recover and move forward. So who is better to lead and to demonstrate these better ways of working as we go forward than we are? So while many of our economies, many of the world's governments are becoming more isolated, we in management consulting are moving in the opposite direction. I've felt that during this year, the online seminars we've had, the invitations I've had to meet with you in institutes, all reinforce this ability of us as a global organization to come together, to learn from each other, and to ensure that we can be as strong as we can, both individually and as a global force. So read the annual report, because it's a story that actually humbles me in terms of the work that has been done by volunteers to help us strengthen our organization. I've already talked about our staff organization and the work that they do, but the volunteer component of our work is absolutely great. This does, of course, lead to us as we grow to think about how we govern ourselves and the relationships between our governance and our management operations. But this is something that we will work on in the coming years as we grow as a profession. At the committee level, the work is 100% volunteer. And I do have to thank the chairs of the committees, the directors of the board, and all of the members of the committees and other volunteers that give so freely of their time to help us do our work. And to you in the institutes, I know, who are also putting in a lot of time to support your members. I do want to thank you. I can't recognize our volunteer work without remembering one of our own who cannot be with us today. Our friend and colleague from Austria, Gerd Prechtel, passed away last Saturday night. I know you, like me, are missing his smiling face on these screens. I always enjoyed working with Gerd. He was passionate and dedicated and absolutely enthused about the CMC designation and what it meant for our profession. And you could always count on him at least once during our annual meeting workshops to say, what about the CMC and how do we strengthen the CMC? So that voice will be missed, but let's remember that voice and others who have gone before us as we carry forward with our deliberations today. So now it's time to get down to business with enthusiasm and with optimism, because I think we do have a bright future in front of us. We have a lot of hard work, but that's never scared us off before, right? And we will be able to put our mind to improving this profession.